lot of connecting between shows over the past few months here on the Games of 90, so let's continue as we now talk about the quick draw game that everybody loves to play, Win, Lose, or Draw.
The house o'clock. Big band, big band, big band, big band.
Welcome to the quick draw game that everyone can play. It's Win, Lose, or Draw. Come on in and join our host, Bert Convey.
Oh, that's very good. That's good. Excuse me, I beg your pardon. Let me say hello to everybody. Hello there. Good to see you.
And once again, Bert Convey.
I don't know. Hello there. Thank you. Welcome. I don't know. Thank you very much.
Win, Lose, or Draw got its start on both NBC Daytime and syndication on September 7th, 1987. Both shows had 2 teams of 3 split between the sexes in a battle to see who was the better drawing team in order to win a nice cash prize. Vicki Lawrence would take the hosting duties for the NBC version, and Bert Convey would take the helm of the syndicated run. Both shows were fondly remembered during their runs and were very popular. And not only that, both hosts were extremely busy during this time. Vicki Lawrence was busy with Mama's Family when it was currently running in syndication and being a prominent guest on Super Password and the Pyramid shows. Bert Convey was the executive producer of the show along with Burt Reynolds, and he was also busy doing Super Password for NBC. I think that's probably why he didn't do Win, Lose, or Draw in daytime. But going back to Vicki Lawrence, for her 2 years doing daytime Win, Lose, or Draw, she was nominated for an Emmy for Best Game Show Host for both those years. Now that's quite a feat. Not to mention, honestly, these are 2 of the best hosts to ever grace a game show. With the format, it was really solid. Both formats varied on how the gameplay worked, but the most well-known format was this one. Each team had someone come up to draw and had 60 seconds to convey what was on the card. If the team gets it right, they get $200. After 30 seconds, a doorbell will sound and they can pass it off to another person on the team, but the value would drop to $100. If a team can't guess it within the 60 seconds, then the opposing team can guess and steal the money. The final round was the lightning round, where one person would come up and draw as many words as they can in 90 seconds. Each correct answer is worth $100. They're allowed to pass twice, but after that they must draw that word. The team with the most money at the end won the game and an additional $1,000. It was a cheap show compared to the big budget shows out there in both daytime and nighttime, but the strength of the show's format carried it through. Plus, it was just pure fun. It showed what they were able to do to get both C-listers and B-listers and A-listers, mixing it up and enjoying drawing on a game show based out of Burt Reynolds' living room. But then, sadly, 1989 would be a tumultuous year for the franchise. And when it comes to this one, I think I need to run another intro.
One thing was for sure, they both believe Sparks to be a total tool.
Be an exciting contest which shows that divorced couples can still have fun together, right?
Mythological hero H-list. C. On the spot dice spin.
We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by.
I have good news and I have bad news regarding the franchise in 1989. The good news is we would get a teen version of the show called Teen Win, Lose, or Draw, which would be on the Disney Channel hosted by Mark Price. We'll talk about that next month. But for bad news, the daytime version would be canceled, and that's due to some network shakeup, which to this day still baffles me. Bert Convey would leave the nighttime version and do Third Degree, and if you watched the video from last month, you know how well that turned out. He also mentioned that Robb Weller would take his place on Win, Lose, or Draw, and I wish the show was just canceled.
Welcome to a special edition of the quick draw game that everybody's playing. It's Win, Lose, or Draw. Come on in and join our host, Robb Weller.
Come on in, let's check out
With Rob's guest, one of the wild and lovely stars of the independent ladies of wrestling. Woo, the farmer's daughter, lovely Trudy Adams. And the reigning heavyweight champion of the world. Look at that. That's the awesome body slamming Queen Kong. And the gentle giant of the Gladiator team on the hot new show American Gladiators, the one and only Gemini!
We're gonna win again! How you doing, buddy?
And the Gladiator who takes losing personally and never concedes defeat, the explosive Gladiator, Nitro!
With that, we're number one. The men are gonna win.
And speaking of explosive, here he is. Hey, I get off on this. Here's Rob!
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Win, Lose, or Draw with a wild group.
The third season of the show would see a brand new set, which made it look like a swankier living room for A-list celebs, rather than the homely one that the old set portrayed. And it felt hollow and had no real meaning. If they said this was Rob's living room, I might have bought it, but instead just turned into another cheap set. Now we could talk about one of the biggest hosting downgrades of all time, Robb Weller. He took over for Bert Convy after the whole Peter Marshall thing went down on Third Degree. Fans of the show got stuck with what was a guy that had the same haircut as Bert Convy, but all the hosting skills of Skip Lackey, with the fake enthusiasm and looking lost most of the time. Not only that, he really didn't give the show much time to breathe and be funny, and he would get really excited over the stupidest thing. Look, I know I just invoked Skip Lackey in comparing him to Robb Weller, but I feel like it's merited. In an interview that he gave to Evening Magazine right when the whole Third Degree thing went down, he claimed he was not going to be the next Rolf Benirschke. And to be perfectly honest, Rolf Benirschke did a much better job at Wheel of Fortune than Robb Weller did when he did Win, Lose, or Draw. You want to know why? Rolf Benirschke actually got better as time wore on. Sure, he had that memorable mishap where there was a tie game and he just didn't know what to do. But you know what? I would take that over the fakeness and sheer audacity that Robb Weller had, saying that he was going to be better than everyone. So we had a crappier set, a worse host, so let's complete the trifecta by messing up with a tried and true format. The original format was simple, as talked about earlier, and didn't need dumb rules like Weller's season. To start, the contestants can't guess until 25 seconds have elapsed, which is when the doorbell sounds. If they can get it right there, it's worth $200. If not, then the value drops to $100. If all 60 seconds elapses, then the opponents can guess it, and they get only $50 for doing so. So let's recap on what got dumped. Firstly, you can't trade off anymore, which takes away some strategy from the game. Secondly, they cheapened the game artificially, especially for a steal, which normally would have been the value of what the puzzle was worth when time ran out. Thirdly, in the first rounds, no categories were given, and instead were given to the TV audience for no other purpose than to inject some play-at-home aspect when people who are watching this were there to have a good time with some laughs with celebrities. It's like when Bert left, it became a bad game show. Then we get to the lightning round, which was the end game for the last two seasons. What did they change? Well, what made the game fair is what they changed. Firstly, they slashed the time from each round from 90 seconds to 60 seconds, and the value for each correct word was slashed from $100 to $50. Why? You just made a lead insurmountable by doing that. If the score was around $600 to $300 by the time we got to the speed round, the game was over. More often than not, the amount needed to overcome a lead was in the 9 to 13 range, which was just impossible. At least with the $100 format, it could happen. With 90 seconds, it gave the teams ample time. They broke the game that didn't need to be broken. Finally, we had a poorly tacked on bonus game. All the team has to do is get 7 words in 90 seconds. That's fair enough, but the way around that is dumb. The first correct answer is worth $50, and each subsequent answer doubles until they get to 7 in a row, and they win $5,000. Now, in a row is important because if you pass, the money is lost and you have to start from scratch. And this makes it pretty unfair. You can get through 5 and then be stuck with a really hard word and you have to settle for $800. It is a broken mess. Ladies and gentlemen, what you have just witnessed is what happens when you take a tried and true format and you break it all to hell. You have a worse set, a worse host, and a worse format. This show completely and utterly sucks. And everybody thought that way. The show was axed at season ends because of the changes, and it just wasn't fun. Weller became worse than Rolf Benirschke, and he never hosted a game show that made air ever again. What really irked me is that all the fun was taken out of the show. Instead of a friendly competition played for laughs and fun, became just yet another game show in a world where they were dying out. I may be a game show fan, but I really don't want to see another episode of Robb Weller hosting Win, Lose, or Draw again. Next month, we'll take a look at Teen Win, Lose, or Draw with Mark Price. And in the mortal words of Dr. John McLaughlin, who unfortunately passed away this week at the age of 89, bye-bye!